You've probably noticed that we focus a lot on understanding the difference between your typical Gen Pop client and you as a coach. There's a good reason for this. The majority of trainers we see in the market seeking to achieve the kind of results we achieve focus on implementing methods that worked for them. But as you now understand, your average coach isn't the same kind of person as your average Gen Pop client. Gen Pop clients need a different approach that suits their experience, ability, and goals. The instinct to train your client as you would train yourself will be your most significant limiting factor to getting a successful result with them. So, where are you most likely to go wrong here? Glad you asked. First, coaches tend to over-cue. Lifting weights safely, especially heavier ones, requires a degree of intention and control that most people walking in off the street just don't have. Your typical Gen Pop client has lived a sedentary life. They have no idea how to brace their core. Forget about activating the scapula or rhomboids. If you tell them to drill their feet into the floor, only confused looks will follow. If you cannot get your client to execute a movement safely and effectively without having to give them more than 3 cues, the movement is too complicated for them. Next, what counts as a good rep for a Gen Pop client isn't necessarily what would count as a good rep for you. Your Gen Pop transformation client doesn't need you to help them place at a powerlifting meet. It's okay if their form is slightly out. What we really care about is, does the movement provide the right training stimulus and is it safe? As long as we tick these 2 boxes, we are good. Third, chasing the big 3 is probably a waste of time. Most Gen Pop clients have never done a barbell squat, conventional deadlift, or barbell bench press. The time it will take to teach them how to perform these movements safely is time better spent doing dumbbell, single leg, and limited range of motion versions and progressing from there. What do we mean by limited range of motion versions? It simply means that rather than starting with the most complex version of a movement, for example, the snatch grip deficit deadlift, we start with the least complex version. We regress the movement pattern to the level that the trainee is able to execute safely and effectively for reps and progress from there. Let's say the client has really tight hamstrings and struggles with keeping the spine neutral when hinging at the hips. Let's start this client with a rack pull from pins above the knees. Over the weeks, we can add a little bit of range of motion by slowly taking the rack pull below the knees. Once the client is comfortable there, we might introduce a trap bar deadlift. The trap bar deadlift is one of the easiest hip hinging movements to coach. Most clients will be able to execute this movement if you just tell them to stand up, keeping your back straight. Once they are successfully executing this movement, you might move to snatch grip rack pulls, then conventional deadlifts off the floor, and after that, introduce the snatch grip from the floor. Only then are you ready to take this client into a deficit snatch grip deadlift. Remember, do not train a Gen Pop client with movement patterns that are beyond their ability to execute. Fourth, avoid the temptation to smash your clients with volume. Yes, we want to induce a caloric deficit, and yes, exercise contributes to the calories out side of the energy balance equation. But as we already learned, Gen Pop clients are typically chronically stressed, so they can't recover from excessive volume. Plus, they've probably already tried excessive volume and failed 20 times before they came to see you. Don't make the mistake of putting them right back where they started. We're after quality, not quantity. Finally, training to failure over and over again is a bad strategy for Gen Pop clients. Their ability to recover is lower than yours, plus going to failure is going to induce an additional counterproductive stress response. The quickest way to injure a client with your routine is to have them take a movement they can't correctly execute to failure for a few sets in a row. Keep your client on track and out of the hospital. Your client should not consistently be missing reps in their sets. If they do, you're probably spending too much time in the failure zone. Only train to failure when testing strength and only test as needed.